boys, it's day 2. We're out here. It's about 85 degrees or something like that. 80, 82. I guess it's time to continue this whole thing. Today we got to get the clutch slave cylinder pulled out of here, which is right there with the little rubber bellow on it. We've got to disconnect our lower bracket right here. This has to come out. It goes straight across to the back. There's a couple bolts in the front with the front transmission, well, the front motor mount right here. The side motor mount's got to come off. Let me see if I can show you that. Right here, got a few bolts that come out, and that mount's got to come out. Then we got to get down into the rear, and there's another mount back there that has to come out. We also have to disconnect power from the starter. We have to pull the wiring off of that, take a couple of bolts out of that, and once we're to that point, we have to get underneath the car, disconnect our down pipe right over here, and we're going to slide that to the side, crack the bolts out for the transfer case, and we should be all set to crack bell housing bolts free. I guess I'm going to stick you guys out to the side for quite a bit today, so probably won't be hearing a lot from me. Either way, we're going to get started on this, and hopefully by the end of the day, we'll have a motor and a transmission hanging by an engine hoist ready to be removed. Well, transmission ready to be removed, nonetheless. Oh, and side note, we do have some guys across the street here. Let me show you. Ripping apart a massive tree right there. It's all filled with wood over that way, so I apologize in advance for any crazy chainsaws or grinding sounds while I'm talking. We'll try to get through this, and I'll keep my face as close to the microphone as possible. Guys are still out here working pretty hard, cutting all these trees down and shredding them all up, so I'm gonna be quick. I got my starter plug undone back there. I have to take out the ground strap, which is that bolt. Oh, you can't see it. That bolt right at the tip of my finger. I've cracked all the motor mount bolts free here, and this motor mount right here is free. The mount bolts right there and on the other side are cracked free, so everything is loosened up right now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on getting the clutch slave pulled off, which is going to be, get this up out of the way. There is, let's see, there's a bolt right here under the side of it, and then there's another one down on the bottom right, which you can see right at the tip of my finger. A little shine on the edge of it. That's the one we want. We're going to take those out. We're going to try to slide the clutch slave out of the way. And once we get that stuff done, I'm going to start cracking a couple of the bolts on the transmission bell housing free. Just the ones that I can get to at the top. Once I get the clutch slave knocked out, I'm going to have to get the engine hoist put back in here, or the engine bracket or brace or whatever it's called. The engine brace has got to go in here because I'm going to start to take out the lower cross member down here, and I got to get the bolts out of the rear mount and side mount, just pull them all completely out, and this thing's going to hang freely. So once that's in here, I'm not going to have a whole lot of space to work, so I'm going to try to get everything busted free right now, on the top side at least, and just keep on trucking along. Sorry for the chainsaws going in the background, guys. It's still super noisy out here. I made myself a little diagram. This is the clutch fluid bracket right here. For the slave cylinder, those are the bolts for it. This is my little rudimentary drawing for the transmission, so I don't forget where bolts go, because I know you don't want to mix those up. This is a motor mount. This is a motor mount. That's the starter hump. There's a bolt here with a ground strap on it for the starter. Another bolt there, there, and there. So if we follow my little diagram right around, you'll see, let me zoom in for you. There is a bolt right there, another one right there. There's one underneath the thermostat housing right down here. There's another one right at the top of the thermostat housing, like directly below the temp sensor on the side. There's, now you can see the head of it right there, it's red dot. There is the ground strap right there for the starter, which you can see, which kind of looks red too. And then there's also one more tucked way down in the backside right there. So I'm going to start cracking those free, and then we're going to have to install our engine stand thing. Well, these guys made some short work of that tree over there. There was trees just about up to about there. There were some pretty tall trees. Those guys knocked those down and hauled them out of here pretty fast. That was probably a 6-hour job for them. But anyway, back to the fun. We have our engine brace installed. We're using it as a kind of a lift, I guess you could say. This rod right here we're going to use in conjunction with a couple of ratchet straps holding on to the transmission. That's just one for now. I'm going to put another one around the bell housing portion, so I'll have one here and one coming off to the front so it doesn't just tip out and drop onto the floor. It's free of all the cables and hoses and lines. So now that I'm here, I've already got the starter bolts pulled out, and those are placed in my little cardboard diagram. I don't know, you can't really tell, it's back there. I couldn't wiggle it out yet. But what I'm going to do now is crawl underneath the car, and I'm going to start pulling the cross member bolts off. There is, this cross member has 2 in the front, and I believe there's 2 in the rear. And I'm going to try to get those yanked out of the way. And once that's done, we should have a little bit more weight on this little hoist or stand or brace or whatever it's called. And well, there it is. It's a engine support bar. Once we have the lower brace pulled out, we should be able to start taking out the rest of the bolts on the bell housing and start rocking this thing back. And I'm hoping that I can use my little pickle fork that I got and bent up and pop the other axle out without pulling the whole driver's side CV axle apart. So I'm going to get started on this and see you guys in a minute. Well, that was a interesting one. There is a bunch of big bolts that are holding that bad boy on, and I got that thing pulled off right here. This is that lower brace, and I also got the plate covering up the motor mount from the bottom yanked out, because we're going to need to have that out of the way, obviously, so we can get to the rear engine mount or transmission mount way back there from the bottom. And that was in the way, so we couldn't rock this thing out. I haven't gotten a whole lot of tension on this yet. I'm going to try to pass my other ratchet strap around it right now and get it hooked up. And once that's hooked up, I should be able to start pulling the upper motor mounts out. And then we'll be ready to drop the downpipe. And all I have left to do after that is unbolt the slave cylinder from the transmission. And we're burning right through some of this today, so this is pretty good. I'm going to stick you guys back over my shoulder, and I'll be back in a minute. Is in, the lower bar is out, and I took it upon myself to put it in a better situation than it was when I pulled it, and scrubbed all the black crap, dirt, debris, grease, all that stuff off of both of these parts. This one needs a little bit more TLC, but they look a lot better than they did. And I guess we're going to move on to the next thing, which is going to be pulling out the upper mount here and the rear mount for the transmission. And that's hopefully going to get us to where we need to be. And look, we have a little visitor over here. Did you come to help us out?
Yeah, sure.
Why don't you come over and turn some wrenches for me so I don't have to do it all? You don't want to lay under the car and turn some wrenches with me?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Do you like the new engine support bar? Isn't it super custom? I don't know. This should be fun to rip all this stuff apart, and hopefully I'll be able to crane the transmission out of the ground and not kill anything, or crack it, or bust it into a million pieces. We will see. Well, guys, I'm gonna say hi to the missus real fast, and then get this stuff all knocked out. All right, so we have all the mount bolts pulled out of this engine mount. The rear center bolts pulled out. Transmission supported by our good old engine support bar. Motor is supported from this point to the engine support bar. We've got the lower bar out. The front mount is just hanging there. The next thing that I have to do to free this up, well, the last two things besides taking out the bell housing bolts. Also we got the clutch slave hanging out up here. Kind of twist it up around and get it out of my way. We have to take out the downpipe bolts, the downpipe gasket, and once that's free, we should be able to lower the vehicle's transfer case down. There's 5 bolts that have to come out of that, I believe. Maybe 6. I think it's 5. Once I get the transfer case bolts yanked out of this thing, we're going to slip the transfer case off the yoke of the drive shaft. I'm going to probably bungee the drive shaft up just so it stays in place. And with the transfer case out of the way, we are probably going to have a little fluid come out, and we can then continue to disassemble this transmission. It's been another long day, folks, but we're making headway. And again, this is still my first 2G, so we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm going to start working on taking out downpipe bolts, and once I can swing that out the way, we're going to be moving forward. So I'm going to get after it. Oh boy, we had some fun there. The downpipe is dangling, and our transfer case is right here. I couldn't help myself. I had to scratch out some of the scum and buildup. This thing doesn't look like it's in too terrible a shape. Let's see. Oh, she's heavy. It's got a little bit of surface rust, but it looks to be in pretty good shape. Looks like it's been split and worked on at some point in its life. So the RTV oozing out. But other than that, I don't see any issues with it. There's no play. The seal in the rear looks real. The seal in the rear looks to be replaced. I don't know. Everything looks fine underneath too. I'd say we've got, let's see if I can show you. Yeah, there's our transmission. She's all supported. Axles out, yada yada. All the stuff you've already seen. Let me get down here below. I'm going to show you. If you look up in here, we've got a little view of what it looks like with the trans case, the T case pulled out of there. I don't see any real issue with any of the stuff down here. It doesn't look like the rear main seal is leaking or anything like that. But I do have another one just because this transmission's coming off. It's getting a new rear main seal. It looks pretty good. And I'm looking at this oil pan also. I have a spare oil pan that's in way better condition than this one. Now's the time to put it on, but I don't know if I want to add too much extra work to myself. I may just leave this oil pan for one more season and throw it on next summer when we rip this whole motor apart and rebuild it. So anyways, this thing's nice and supported. Everything's pulled off of it. The only thing that we have left to do is take out all the bell housing bolts from the top and the bottom, and I got to pop that CV shaft out of the rear. Other than that, I think we're looking pretty good. I think looking at this, I might want to put one more strap on the left side. I got one on the right, one in the middle. Never hurts to double down, right? So let's go back up top side. I think I'm going to go ahead and pop a couple of these bolts out for the bell housing and see where we land. So this is taking quite a little bit of time down here, but I got my third strap in, so I've got 1, 2, 3 straps in to keep this thing from wobbling. I don't know if it would. Better safe than sorry, I guess, right? I've got the jack down there with a pad on top of a block of wood just to help lower it down once we get this thing all the way unscrewed. I believe I've gotten all the bolts out. Oh, and I wanted to show you this if you're doing this yourself. This is the little spacer plate that's on the bottom of the transmission. It aligns everything between the transmission and the motor. It's a 12 mil. The rest of these are 14s. I believe I've got all of them out. There may be one more bolt to take out. Yes, right here. So there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts that hold this transmission to this motor. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the last one out, and it's that one. Let me show you. Right there. Right at the tip of my finger. It's well, let me try to line you guys up here. That little guy right there. That's the last transmission bolt. I'm going to go ahead and rip that thing out. And I have a pry bar, a couple of flat blade screwdrivers. I'm going to see if I can just at least rock this thing off so that I can pop the CV axle. Well, folks, the sun is starting to set. Well, basically is set. It's starting to get dark out here. We are at the end of day number 2 messing around with this. We got our transfer case sitting over there on the ground. A ton of work got done today. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to yank the transmission completely out and lower it down to the ground, which kind of sucks. But I want to share this with you real fast. I watched Jaffro's videos religiously on how to do this. And excuse the diagram. Earlier I said there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 bolts holding the transmission in. I lied. There's an 8th in the back, and this goes to the spacer plate, and this is right by the carrier bearing where the CV axle goes into the transmission, under the bottom of the transmission in the back, almost by the steering rack. So it's the only one that's like that, and It's really the only one that goes in from the driver's side over. But I missed it. So, well guys, after another long day, we didn't quite get this thing pulled off and get it on the ground, but I can show you. We did get it disconnected and it's ready to fall out. You look, you can see the gap. Let me see if we can stick the light here. Let me kind of show you. You can kind of see. She is wiggling. It's starting to get dark out. These are holding the transmission up, and I got to just pull it back this way and push the engine that way a little bit, and we should be able to just pop this thing off, but we're not going to be able to get to that tonight. It's starting to get dark real quick, and I don't want to be stuck out here picking up tools with a flashlight. So I'm going to go ahead and start packing it up. This is the end of day 2. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully it gave you a little bit of insight, if not a couple of laughs at the struggle, which is real, by the way. This is definitely a tough job, but if you keep things organized and keep your nose to the grinding stone, as they say, you get pretty far pretty quick. All the stops, I could do this a little bit quicker and bust all this stuff down faster, but obviously I thought you guys would enjoy this, so I brought a camera along. So you got to realize I got to stop, reset, get angles, stop, reset, shoot the next part. It takes a little bit longer to record all this stuff, but you know what? I love doing it. It's a fun hobby, so hopefully you guys enjoy it too. And if you are enjoying this crazy adventure and ripping this transmission out of here, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you share it with a friend if you want, just so at least it gets around in the algorithms and helps me get a little bit more traction out there. The more views we get, the more subscribers we get, the more chances we get to come out here and wrench on these things. So we're also thinking about adding another vehicle to the channel, something fun. I've been surfing around the internet, and it's in the same family of these DSMs, so that's all I'm going to say about that. But let's get this thing back on the road first, and I guess that's it until next one, guys. We're going to be back out here again to drop this transmission completely out of the car. Hopefully we'll be ready to install a new clutch and a new flywheel and a new pressure plate. A little tongue twister there. We've got a bunch of other stuff too we're going to mess with. We're also replacing the rear main seal. I have one of those sitting in the back of the Eclipse right now. So anyways, guys, it's been fun. End of day 2. Clutch job, transmission removal, whatever you want to call it, in the books. We'll see you for the next one. Take care, folks.